I welcome you all to this series, and I hope it's a good and interactive session for all of you and all of us. And I'll just begin sharing my screen. Yes, I'll be sharing in this presentation. Basically, I'll be sharing about some of our experiences from the field about the ecological restoration work, which we are doing in different geographies, and our work with the village communities towards improving governance of commons and shared natural resources. So firstly, I'll begin by giving you the larger context of India, the status of commons, about the organization, mission, and spread of our work, the model we use, best practices from the field, glimpses into impact, or stories of changes that we see on ground, and then moving on way forward. So when we look at the larger context, environmental degradation is a massive problem. Arjun, am I audible? It says that my internet connection is unstable. So not sure if I'm audible.
Clearly.
Okay. I think that's fine. So nearly 30% of India's landmass is degraded and more than 5 billion tons of soil get eroded annually. And 54% of our country faces high to extremely high water stress situation. This is severely impacting the farm-based livelihood of the tribal communities or indigenous communities in different part of country. And also per capita availability of land has also been declined over the decades, and it is projected to be further decline. The severe degradation of natural resources has negatively impacted the agriculture and livestock-based production system, which leads to distress migration. Means there's also increase in the number of people who are migrating from the rural to the urban areas. And these challenges are further compounded by the climate change and disproportionately impacting the women and the marginalized section of the communities, such as landless or livestock keepers or smallholder farmers. So as per the World Bank report, also nearly 100 million Indians are to be mostly or severely affected from the climate change, and most affected will be the rural household who are dependent on the farm-based livelihood. So when we look at the India's landmass, about 25% of the geographical area of India is constituted by commons. And when we talk about commons are community forest, pasture land, water bodies on which local population subsists for firewood, fodder, food, medicine, fiber, and timber. And 350 million people in India are directly dependent on these commons for ecological, social, cultural, and economic values. And these land are the catchment of water sources, and they provide habitat for variety of plants, animals, birds, and help in regulating water and nutrient flows, which is basically very essential for supporting agriculture and provide fodder and fuel wood, fruits, and input for agriculture to the local communities. Common land also provides spaces for nurturing the social relation, the cultural sites, say for example, sacred groves. The local communities are not only dependent on using these resources, but they have also been the natural stewards of these resources, managing these resources for the several generations through their customary rules and regulations. So the study conducted at FES suggested that more than 70% of people access commons for fuel wood, fodder, and TFPs, livestock grazing. And commons are not only the safety net, but also provide foundation for agriculture as well as livestock-based production systems. So this study basically suggested that the studies are also suggested that the commons contribute 5 billion USD to the income of the poor household. And despite of all those significance, the commons are still seen as a wasteland and declined by 31 to 55% over past 50 years. And the primary reason for this decline is the degradation, which include poor faith in capacity of people to manage these resources, And although the local communities have used and managed these resources and using the customary rules and regulation, and most of these land are vested with the government, and the communities do not have secure land right over these resources. So this is the larger context. So in this larger context, the Foundation for Ecological Security, FES, which is an NGO we are working with, and our mission is to conserve nature and natural resources by catalyzing informed and collaborative actions among the local communities, practitioners, government, and academic institutions for improving the economic opportunities for rural communities as well as social and ecological well-being. So together with our partners, as of now, we are working with in 116 districts of 14 states. I think by mistake I have written 11, but the updated number is 14. So in 14 states covering 11 agroecological zones of the country, and we are working with more than 41,000 village institutions and help them in better management of more than 12 million acres of common land. And as of now, we have impacted around 25 million people. The approach is in the signature of FES. We use socio-ecological system approach and we bring nature into NRM. So here we understand and acknowledge that the human are just the one part of the larger ecosystem, and what are just one of the, and we are just the one kind of living being. And what we do is deeply interconnected with each other living beings, with the social system, the ecological systems which we are part of. And unlike the other agencies or organization which would say focus either on economic aspect or the social aspect or the conservation sides, we believe that the ecological priorities needs to be seen along with the social and economic agenda. And all these three are interconnected. All these social, ecological, economic agendas are interconnected. So our approach is largely guided by the system thinking. And we work on a landscape-based approach wherein we recognize forest land, water, and they exist in the contiguum. So in the rural context, when we look at the soil moisture, nutrient, biodiversity, these are like biophysical infrastructure in the rural context. And they are the systemic drivers. So if you are working towards ecological restoration, the efforts is towards improving the performance of these infrastructures or the systemic driver. So the benefit can be reached into the ecological, social, and as well as economic domain. We use data and tool for the informed decision-making processes. We value the local wisdom and engage local communities in search of appropriate solutions. We assist local communities in getting secure access and tenure over the wasteland, panchayat land, and the forest land. We work with the state and the local government and support them with the tools and technology and for better implementation of the government schemes. Yes, and we also collaborate with various research institutes to improve rigor and validity to the ongoing research. So this is the area where we are working. We are working mostly in environmentally vulnerable regions facing a wide array of challenges, including recurring drought, overexploitation of water resources, mining, revination, etc. And here, the people do here is the rain-fed agriculture. The production system basically are on edge. Here, the farmers are mostly dependent on the rain-fed agriculture, which means they do single crop, means one cropping season in a year. So it would be, they would be able to grow only crop during the rainy season, which lasts say for 3 to 4 months. And the rest of the year, they would have depended on some other sources of the livelihood. And these areas are the home for small and marginal farmers, indigenous communities, and agropastoral communities. And over the years, what we have seen is that there has been a lot of erosion in the indigenous knowledge system. And common land constitute here the area where we work. Here the common land constitute 44% of the geographical area, and on an average, commons contribute 20 to 40% of the household income in the location where we are working. More than 75% of the household graze their livestock on the common land, and 44% of their fodder requirement is met from the commons. So these facts and figures are from the area where FES is working. So here you can see at the right where there are 3-4 images, where the first image is from the eastern part of India, say for Odisha, where we are working with the forest dependent communities. In southeastern Rajasthan, we are working with agropastoral communities, where livestock are the important asset. In the southern part, agropastoral communities, which is the drought-prone area. In Gujarat, the ravine area, where agriculture and livestock rearing is the important component. So this is the crux of our work, the core model that we use in the field. So here we are working on the 3 interconnected aspects. One is on secure community land right, as evidences also suggested that unless community have secure tenure or secure right over these resources, incentive to manage these resources are really very less. So one of the major focus of our work is secure community land right over these resources. And second is to strengthen collective action for more inclusive management, for more responsive governance. So the third is improving access to resources and finance for the restoration, because many of these land where we are working is extremely degraded, and we need financial investment to restore these kind of lands. And by working on these 3 interconnected aspects, say for tenure, collective actions for inclusive governance and management, and access to finance and resources, so this helps to strengthen the health of the ecosystems, means helps to improve the ecological health of the ecosystems, and also helps to increase resilience of the rural communities. So today we'll be talking in detail about the third component of the core model, the ecological restoration work. So during the ecological restoration work, first of all, we understand the landscape and start the ecological restoration processes by identifying a contiguous stretch of land. It may be a catchment of a small river or a watershed or a hill range. So, so after understanding the landscape, we understand the people, the communities living around the landscape, and we negotiate between the resource rich and resource poor people and institutions. We see upstream and downstream habitations issues like boundary, open grazing, forest fire, sharing of the resources, conflict management, etc. And we provide a platform for local communities, civil society organization, and informed individuals, academia, government functionaries for collective analysis of the problem to search the appropriate solution and influencing the overall agenda of that particular region. After understanding the landscape and the people, we try to understand the ecosystem of the area selected for the restoration. And before initiating the work, we understand the ecological succession trend of the area, means what kind of species are present earlier, was present earlier, and what kind of species are present as of now, when they disappear, what are the causes. We understand the forest type, we understand flora, we understand fauna, and to understand and get more information on the indigenous forest species of the area. We also do the pilot survey of the isoclimatic zone, which is very similar in terms of biophysical characteristics of the area which is being treated and less disturbed. So we can understand what kind of species are growing in that particular area. So we also understand the local ecological conditions, geohydrological conditions, human-nature interactions, and prepare detailed ecological profile of that particular area. We have developed various tools and methods to improve rigor and validity to our ongoing work. So these kind of tools help local communities for making informed decisions based on the scientific recommendation. So I would like to share few tools which we have developed over past few years, which are helping us in the ecological restoration work in processes. The first tool basically is CLART. We'll be sharing very briefly. This is the decision support tool, which provide location specific information in the user friendly manner, and also enable village communities to plan and develop the estimate of the soil and water conservation interventions, specifically without help of any engineer or internet at the field. So basically this work at the offline mode as well. So as an output, scientific recommendation, as an output of CLART tool, scientific recommendation are translated through a color-coded map that depict recharge potential of the area, and by overlaying the layer of, and this basically works by overlaying the layer of lithology, drainage, slope, land use, and land cover. So say for instance, if you are standing on a particular area and using CLART app, it will give you the output as a color-coded map. So here the green color shows the good recharge zone, and percolation tank or water harvesting structure. CCT contour trenches can also be made into this the area which shows green in the CLART app. And the yellow color shows the moderate recharge zone. Means the recharge is not very good, not very bad. So in this case, LBCD or gully plug can be prepared. The red color shows the less water recharge area and the area of surface storage. Here, the farm pond or well deepening or surface water harvesting structure can be prepared. And the purple color is the area for catchment restoration, which can be restored using the grass. And this area basically can be restored using grass seeding, planting, or say for stone bunding. So this is the kind of one tool which basically enable local communities to take the decisions and basically the informed decisions. Similarly, we have developed another tool called IFMT, Integrated Forest Management Tool. And using this tool, we are helping Forest Department to prepare working plan of their forest division. So this tool has been used by Forest Department of our four states. In Rajasthan, we are supporting in preparation of working plan of almost the entire all the districts. And using this app, we help Forest Department in systematic data collection, data analysis, and preparation of map, which is being used to take informed decision in the working plan. So beside these scientific tools, we have been using various kind of methods like community-based system dynamics. This tool basically built on the participatory rural appraisal and group building methods. So this helps to understand the interconnections and also helps to visualize the long-term changes. And then computer-based simulation modeling to develop the models from the maps, which is basically have been developed with the help of local communities. And then we also use experimental games and the crop water budgeting to influence the behavioral change. And this is being helping and triggering discussion around the various kind of rules and the way people perceive water, specifically the groundwater, and also trigger discussion around various kind of rules they should be coming up, and various kind of shared strategies can be developed to manage the land and water resources better. And this tool basically help us to sensitize communities that water as a shared natural resources, specifically the groundwater. Sorry. So after understanding the people, the landscape, and then we prepare regeneration plan along with the communities, using the various kind of tools and methods which I've shared. So first of all, we do biophysical mapping to understand the area and the terrain. And there are few species. There are few species which can grow on the top and on the top hill, but and require less soil. Whereas there are few species which require more water, and they can basically grow at the bottom. So we use manual GIS methods to understand the same. I'll be sharing in the next slide about the manual GIS in detail. And my colleague Anil and Dr. Sharma can explain in Q&A in detail about manual GIS if it's required. So as this is very important to plant right species at the right place. So we select species based on the species survey of the area, and select ecologically suitable species and ask communities for their preferences based on the past experiences, and based on the ecological suitability of those species to be planted in the area. And then we prepare treatment plan, including soil and water conservation plan using CLART, and then discuss with the village institution for implementation and protection of the soil and water conservation measures, as well as the plantations and planting. So and after the technical sanction, the plan goes for approval in the Gram Sabha and the Panchayat. And then we do timely budgeting and prepare implementation and monitoring plan to monitor the progress. And once the plan is approved, the soil and water conservation measures, planting, and all other regeneration activities are carried out in the field. So these are the basic the steps which we follow in the ecological restoration. Just a minute. So these are the, just wanted to share a few of the best practices that we use in the field while taking the restoration initiative. So to understand the terrain and topography and the soil and the placement of the species based on the biophysical factors, we use manual GIS. This basically helps us to understand the existing stock and the placement of the species, which species can be planted at the top, which species can be planted at the bottom, which species can be planted at the middle zone based on the manual GIS. So this is the part of manual GIS exercise. During this exercise, we do detailed survey of the areas to be restored. Detailed survey of the top zone, middle zone, and bottom zone to access which type of species are present at the top, at the middle, and at the bottom. Here in the image, we can see the number of, say, for Salar and the Kadaya, Boswellia serrata, and Striculia urine species are very high at the top. It means the conditions are favorable for these species to be grown at the top. So, say for maybe these species require less soil or less water. So, whenever the planting activity is to be carried out, these species to be planted at the top. So, this is the indication. And say for in this particular example, we see bamboo, Syzygium cumini, jamun, arjun, Terminalia arjuna. So this can be planted at the bottom. So as these species require good amount of soil and moisture and more water, so these species to be planted at the bottom. So if the zonation of species are correct, the survival chances of this species, the survival chances of the sapling or this of seedling is also increases. So in all the area where the ecological restoration work is being undertaken in FES locations, we use manual GIS as an important tool. So these are 4 golden rules which we take into consideration while doing planting. So first is the proper spacing. In case of planting, specifically in forest, we use close spacing can be done, where in case of grazing land, the spacing should be more, so that say for the proper spacing for, so there's a proper space for grasses to be grown. So it's say for the plant to plant spacing is very dense in case of grazing land, Then due to the less penetration of sunlight on the ground, it would be difficult for grass species to grow or to regenerate. So spacing is very, very important factors which should be taken into consideration while planting in different kind of landscapes. The another important aspect is the time of the planting that is also very important. So planting should be started just after the monsoon when the sufficient moisture is there in the soil. So we can utilize the maximum growing period, and the plant have a longer time to be exposed during this growing period. Correct method of planting is also equally important, as it is shown in the image, that after planting we should this could be one of the strategy. So just after the planting we should firmly tap the soil starting from the periphery to the center, so that the root hair loss are less. And if we start tapping this soil from the center to the periphery, the root hair loss will be more, and the more chances of plant to be damaged or say for mortality. Also, the 4 golden rule, or we should basically focus on the planting of the indigenous species as per the local ecological conditions of the area. So this would also helps to improve the local biodiversity as well as the local ecological conditions. So say for example, planting of the fast growing or the same kind of species can affect the local ecology of the area. So it is very important when we are doing planting, only the locally available species, the species which are found in that particular agroecological zone or on that particular landscape should be planted during planting. So in the restoration or regeneration work, when we do non-availability of the saplings, low regeneration, poor quality seeds of many species is the major challenge in the restoration. So what we do to solve this issue, this challenge, we collect the tree and grass seeds of indigenous species with active involvement of the rural communities. In doing so, we have developed seed calendar to share with the village community member for timely seed collection. As the organization, we purchase seeds from them which are of better quality. And this seed calendar is being adopted and appreciated by Government of Rajasthan and Government of Chhattisgarh to promote quality seed collection, quality grass and tree seed collection. So, so you can see one image in the middle. It was taken by my colleague Anil, and he was sharing with me the story when he was taking this picture. And so, when the seed collection campaign was happening in Udaipur, this lady came having the seeds in her hand, and the seeds were of the Erythrina tuberosa species. And she said we should focus collecting on these particular seeds of this particular species and start protecting the trees of this particular species. And when we said why, so she said this trees is degrading over time, and as earlier there were lot many trees of Erythrina tuberosa in her locality or in the area where she lives, but as of now the number has been reduced drastically. So, and similarly, like say for the tree seed collection, the grass seed collection is also, we also do the grass seed collection, and after the grass seed collection, we store the seeds in the sacks and make the seed pellets, and these dry seeds ball used for sowing into the soil. And we also use slip planting, plucking the grass clumps from the soil and splitting into the slips for planting into the soil or trenches is another methods which we can can helpful to restore the grazing land. And this is the effective way of reviving the indigenous species of grasses. So, so when we see, say for restoration, when we see or restoring the grazing land and require the seeds of indigenous grass species, it is very difficult to get seeds of the grass species. So, as FES, we also collect the seeds of indigenous grass species to improve the productivity of the grazing land. So apart from the planting, our focus is on natural regeneration. We focus on collecting the seeds of the species which is difficult to regenerate via planting. In the first image, you can see the small seedling of Enogasis pendula, and protecting the wild saplings is also another way which we do in the field. We make thaulas around them for better water availability and better survival. And we use locally available materials, say for stones or thorny bushes, for protection of the planted saplings and wildlings from the grazing land, wildling from for protection of those wildlings from grazing, or say for wild animals. In planting, we focus 1+3 method of planting, where along with the planted saplings, we sow 3 seeds on the edge of the crescents. So if planted sapling doesn't survive, there are 3 more to grow. So and some other methods are, say for drenching is very effective, specifically in case of dry areas where there are chances of long dry spell just after the planting. And in this method, basically submerge the bag of seedling in the water for 10 to 15 minutes before planting, and once it is saturated with water, the plant or the seedlings can be planted. So in this way, the sapling can survive 10 to 15 days, even though if there is no rains after the planting. And also to reduce the evapotranspiration losses, we use locally available material. In this case, you can see in the image, after planting, the surface is covered with the polythene, which is in which the seedling was there before planting. So this is also effective way of reducing the evapotranspiration losses. So after that, this is the few impact slides I would like to share. These are the glimpses of changes, what we see on the ground. So this is the before after image. This is the location in Gujarat, a ravine land, which was this was the condition in 1986, and this was in condition in 2016. This is another one from Karnataka, and as of now, the land is restored, and we have heard from the communities, and the sloth bear population are also sometimes seen in this forest. So, to understand the impact and monitor the changes on the ground, we use International Forestry Resource Institution framework, which was developed by Eleanor Strom, and Ecological Health Monitoring Framework, which was developed by FES. We have 4 of our sample watershed, which we monitor on 5 to 10 year interval, and more than 150 annual ecological monitoring sites, where we do socio-ecological monitoring on annual basis, where we build capacities of rural cadres, and they support us in community-based ecological health monitoring. We collect data using ODK app, and survey instruments are translated into local language for easy, for their better understanding or easy understanding. And we capture information on the biodiversity, biomass, soil health, and we collect the data on agriculture, and production, and different kind, and the rules and regulations people have on the common lands. So the studies have helped us in building evidences of the role of secure tenure and community governance in improving ecological outcomes. And comparative assessment of biomass and biodiversity across the location indicates improved biomass and biodiversity in the community governed commons vis-a-vis ungoverned commons. And data from 150 sites since 2016 shows improvement in the standing biomass in the community managed common lands. And also the gathered from more than 15,000 wells before and after the monsoon since 2015 shows improvement in the water availabilities due to the restoration efforts. So due to the changes in the vegetative cover and the water availability, birds and reptile and amphibians and other faunal assemblies has also increased over time. So this result is from the longitudinal assessment and the Kalyanpura watershed. This watershed is basically in Rajasthan, and this indicates that the diversity of faunal species is also increased with improvement in the governance and restoration efforts by the community members. And this improvement, there was the improvement in the soil health status as well. So these are from the detailed butterfly assessment undertaken in Angul watershed. So these assessments help us to create awareness about the various neglected ecological parameters. So in 2010, a total of 27 butterfly species has been recorded, whereas in 2017, a total of 75 butterfly species has been recorded. So this kind of tools or this kind of neglected collecting data on this neglected ecological parameters basically helps us to basically create awareness among the local communities about these indicators. So these are the change detection maps from one of our watershed, which is in Kadri. We use remote sensing imageries to assess the change detection, which is being complemented by the ground truthing. So, so in terms of income, what we see is the changes in the average household income from 600 USD to 1600 USD per household per annum. So a lot of it can be contributed from the changes in income from agriculture, livestock, social security schemes, social security scheme. And these assessment and this study was undertaken. This survey was undertaken between 2015 to 2019. The baseline was conducted in 2015, and the end terms assessment were conducted in 2019. And about 1,100 households were surveys, and similar responded were interviewed as in the base who were interviewed in the baseline. The same the responded were interviewed at the end line as well. So these are this was the changes in the income. And these are the various rules that was evolved at the community level across various states for improved water management where we are working in. So, but the question is, so what I've shared, the impact slides and the way we are working. So, but the question is this sufficient and are we able to create an enduring impact? So we have been working from about 3 decades now, and as of now, we are able to make difference to only 12 million acres of land, and where the ask is for 205 million acres, which is nearly 1/4 of the India. So in last few years, what we have been done, we have tried to reflect it. We went back to the blackboard and see what is really the problem and what is the real problem that we are dealing with, and how do we address this kind of systemic issues. So there's a short film that we have, and I would like to request to Arjun to share the film, and then we can get Q&A.
Sure. Just give me a minute.
Thank you,
I'll
Arjun.
just present it. Thank you, Himani. I'll just present your film. Yeah.
Promise of commons. Commons are community forests, pastures, and water bodies. They cover 25% of India's landmass. 350 million people depend on commons for their livelihoods. It helps rural people, especially women, meet basic needs of food, fodder, medicine, firewood, and timber. It is a critical source of income and sustenance for tribal populations, 45% of whom live below the poverty line. Between 40 and 60% of their income is from the collection and sale of non-timber forest produce. Similarly, landless, marginal, and small farmers rely heavily on common pastures for the fodder and water needs of their livestock. When commons are ecologically healthy, they improve surface and groundwater, soil nutrients, pollination, pest control, carbon storage, and create a thriving ecosystem. This healthy ecosystem helps improve the productivity and resilience of farms, forests, and pastures. This is essential in the face of the climate crisis. Commons are also woven into the social and cultural fabric of villages and provide a distinct social and cultural identity to rural communities. However, commons are degrading at an alarming rate. Widespread degradation of commons is worsening rural distress, especially impacting women. Agricultural yields are falling, costs of cultivation are rising, water tables are getting depleted, forests are shrinking, and pastures are degrading. These in turn contribute to declining rural incomes, growing inequality, distress migration, additional burden on women, and worsening the impacts of climate change. Communities, especially women, who depend on the forests, pastures, and water bodies around them, don't have the rights and resources to protect and manage these commons. The collective potential of local communities, particularly women, in the governance of commons, thus remains neglected. But today, there are opportunities to address these problems. At the national level, there is increasing attention for climate action, land restoration, and water conservation. Laws such as the Panchayati Raj Act and the Forest Rights Act support community-led commons restoration. State and national governments have made ambitious commitments on farmers' incomes, land degradation, and climate change, water availability, and sustainable development goals. In fact, state governments already spend about 40,000 crores INR or 5 billion USD every year on the restoration of natural resources under the Right to Employment Act. This is a huge opportunity to embed commons into government programs, since supporting decentralized community-led commons restoration can help governments meet these commitments. Barriers to change. To make the most of these opportunities, we need to first understand why efforts to restore commons so far have not quite succeeded. This is because of 4 deep-rooted problems. Problem number 1. People working on commons don't work together. Governments at all levels, NGOs, panchayat institutions, and other actors don't plan and implement in tandem. Because they work in silos, they fail to deliver concrete and lasting impact. Problem number 2. Actors with mandates to implement programs don't have capacity. The actors responsible for implementing programs don't have the capacity to plan and implement. They don't have enough information to make evidence-based decisions. Problem number 3. National or state governments and institutions provide weak support to commons restoration. Commons are widely and erroneously perceived as wastelands that should be put to other productive uses. Evidence that commons play important ecological and economic roles is not well known, which is why social and political interest in commons restoration remains low. Problem number 4. Actors responsible for implementing laws, policies, and programs are not held accountable. Laws, policies, and programs that support community rights, commons restoration, and women's representation exist, but there are no mechanisms in place to ensure that those responsible for implementing them are held accountable. Moreover, communities don't have the capacity or information to hold the different actors accountable. As a result, commons are often diverted for development projects. Women's right to representation and decision-making are also routinely ignored. Solution. When communities, especially women, are entrusted with the power to control and govern their commons, opportunities open up to sustainably increase rural incomes, promote women's participation in collective decision-making, and reap ecological dividends. This is the promise of the commons. Our successful core model works to advance the governance of commons by local communities with a three-pronged approach. 1. Secure community land rights. 2. Collective and inclusive governance of commons. 3. Access to funds and other resources for restoration of commons. Evidence from our work on the ground shows that in over 3 to 5 years, commons become ecologically healthier, produce more food, fodder, and other useful materials, improve water availability, soil quality, and biodiversity. So farmers save on fertilizers, pesticides, and irrigation. Yields go up and farmers can grow a second crop as well. As a result, average household incomes increase by 30 to 50%. People spend more on food, health, and education. To achieve this kind of enduring change at scale, the Promise of Commons initiative will pursue 4 mutually reinforcing strategic action areas, with a focus on working with a range of partners to A. Catalyze collaborative action to build a shared and vivid imagination, improve access to data and knowledge, and enhance capacities to design and sustain multi-actor engagement. B. Co-create public assets and leverage technology and government programs architecture to build leadership and capacities at scale. C. Generate evidence, influence narratives, and embed commons in programs and policies. And D. Engender institutional mechanisms that make government and other actors more responsive and accountable. To implement the 4 strategic action areas, we need to expand the coalition of the actors pushing for change in the system. A system where change is driven by local communities and where women in particular have the voice, agency, power, and influence to transform systems, institutions, and structures to address deep systemic inequalities and power imbalances. Government at all levels recognizes community stewardship on commons and creates enabling policies, programs, and institutional architecture. Private sector actors recognize the promise of commons for nature and people and invest in commons restoration. NGOs, networks, think tanks, academia, and media amplify voices of communities, particularly women and the disadvantaged, and support in generating evidence and enhancing capacities. Over the next 5 years, we aim to make substantial and measurable progress to achieve the long-term vision of gender equitable and inclusive community-led governance of the commons to improve ecological, social, and economic outcomes for rural people. We are confident that implementing our plan in the current window of time will help us deliver significant impact in 5 years. 38 million rural people, including 19 million women, will have secured rights to access, use, and manage 30 million acres of commons, improving their livelihoods and health of commons. 11 million rural people will benefit from the 50% improvement in stable net incomes that result from restored commons and better access to markets and social security schemes. This will set in motion a cascade of change, leading to the full realization of the promise of commons in the long term. 350 million rural poor enjoying improved economic and ecological outcomes from gender-inclusive community-led governance of 205 million acres of India's commons.
Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you, Himani. Himani, it was such a wonderful presentation to hear all the work that FES is doing. And thank you so much for sharing, about all these different tools and techniques that you have. And I think that will be so valuable for the entire community also. And even, when people start off on projects, these are ways or quick start guides almost, and it'll be really nice to have them on the platform and even share with others if possible. But thank you so much for this talk. And yeah, I think I'll open it.
Arjun, that actually, as I was discussing with you in the morning, this is the plan, because this is very the crisp presentation, only the one slide about any kind of tools, and we would also be very happy to share in this particular session. Basically, could be is more focused on the ecological restoration work, the safer the kind of work which we are in the field in the broader context. But in the next session, we can go into deeper in some kind of tools and methods and the kind of the ecological monitoring, wherever, like whatever you want.
Sure, of course. And I think we can always try and schedule like separate sessions for people who are interested in just that particular tool or component or technique or something like that. And we'll figure it out as we go along. But for now, I think it'll be nice if we can open it up for some questions. And if you have time, and I know Dr. Satish Sharma, who's a retired ACF and senior consultant with FES, and Anil Sarsavan and Pratiti are also there from FES, no? So I think we'll open it up for questions and then take it from there. Yeah, thank you so much. And so I think I'll just start with the first question that was there. And this was from Vivek. Vivek asks, hi, is this presentation a standard process that all your projects use, or is it prepared for today's webinar so that we can get a general idea of your approach? In either case, I'm keen to know how you arrived at this description of the process.
So thank you, Vivek, for this question. So this presentation is basically not for this particular webinar. This is the normal steps and the key areas or key strategies which we use in the field for any kind of the restoration work. Thank you.
I think in the presentation you had mentioned something about manual GIS, and Madhura was asking, what exactly do you mean by manual GIS?
Sure. So my colleague Anil and Dr. Sharma will be sharing in detail about manual GIS. Anil, would you like to go?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Namaskar sabhi ko. देखिए, this manual GIS is a very simple tool. Actually, आप field में देखिए, the laborers which are working in field, they are generally illiterate, and when we are giving some instructions in writing or बड़ा word, so it is very difficult to understand for them. तो हम क्या करते हैं? This is a simple diagrammatic representation, और इसको ऐसे करते हैं कि कोई भी एक एरिया है, the area which is under treatment, उसका एक basic map लेते हैं. That basic map is on a हार्ड पेपर, कोई भी व्हाइट पेपर है उस पर उसका ये मैप लिया जाता है। अब इस पर क्या करते हैं, जो ट्रांसपेरेंसी है, बहुत सारी ट्रांसपेरेंसी को इसके ऊपर रख देते हैं, and every transparency is treated as a layer because so many features are there. So one transparency gives introduction about the drainage line. Second transparency gives information about the existing forest crop. कोई भी एरिया अगर हम देखेंगे तो पूरा बैरन नहीं होता, कहीं छोटा सा पैच होगा फॉरेस्ट का, और कहीं देखेंगे तो द बिग पोर्शन इज बैरन, कहीं रॉकी एरिया है, और कहीं देखेंगे स्ट्रीम इज देयर, सो मेनी फीचर्स आर देयर। तो वो एक लेयर उस फीचर्स की होती है। एक लेयर होती है फायर की, कि ड्यूरिंग समर सीजन इफ एरिया इज फायर प्रून, तो किधर से फायर आएगी, विच पोर्शन इज फायर प्रून जोन, तो एक फायर के बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन देगा। एक लेयर बनाई जाती है ट्रांसपेरेंसी पर फॉर सॉइल एंड वाटर कंजर्वेशन एक्टिविटीज। सपोज आपका 100 हेक्टेयर एरिया है, इस 100 हेक्टेयर में किस जोन में हम चेक डैम बनाएंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम एक कैनिकट बनाएंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम सॉइल डिगिंग का आपका पिट डिगिंग करेंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम सीसीटी करेंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम बॉक्स ट्रेंच करेंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम स्टोन का वाल करेंगे, कहाँ हम यूफोरिया फेंसिंग करेंगे, किस पोर्शन पर हम आपका बार्ड वायर फेंसिंग करेंगे। हमें वो लोकेशन रहती है, उस मैप में होता है सारा, यूजिंग डिफरेंट कोड्स एंड डिफरेंट कलर्स। एक लेयर सिर्फ इस वर्क की हो, इस काम की होगी, एक लेयर सिर्फ सोइंग की होती है। इस 100 हेक्टेयर में हम आपका धौप का एनेगस पेंडुला का सोइंग कहाँ करेंगे, किस पोर्शन में हम ग्रासेज का सोइंग करेंगे, किस पोर्शन में हम आपका बॉस्वेलिया सरेटा का सोइंग करेंगे, किस पोर्शन में हम डिफरेंट स्पीसीज का सोइंग करें। तो दो जोन्स आर मार्क्ड विद द हेल्प ऑफ डिफरेंट कलर्स और डिफरेंट कोड्स, ताकि जैसे उस मैप को देखेंगे, किसी आदमी को काम करना है तो देखेगा ओके रेड मीन्स दिस जोन इज डेडिकेटेड फॉर सोइंग ऑफ ग्रासेज। तो जब वो सोइंग करेगा तो उस जो रेड जोन बताया वहीं पर सोइंग करेगा। सपोज ग्रीन कलर इज गिवन फॉर सोइंग ऑफ बॉस्वेलिया सरेटा, तो लेबर जब जाएगा अपना सीड लेके तो उस सिर्फ ग्रीन पोर्शन को देखेगा, ओ दिस जोन इज सुटेबल फॉर सोइंग ऑफ बॉस्वेलिया सरेटा, तो उसी जोन में अपने काम को कंफाइंड करेगा। एक जोन है प्लांटिंग के लिए। सपोज हमारे एरिया में कुछ हिली पोर्शन है, तो उसमें आपका एक टॉप जोन होगा, एक मिडिल स्लोप होगा, एक बॉटम जोन होगा। तो हॉरिजॉन्टली और वर्टिकली डिफरेंट जोन होते हैं। तो सर्टेन स्पीसीज आर सुटेबल फॉर टॉप जोन एंड सर्टेन प्लांट स्पीसीज आर सुटेबल ओनली फॉर मिडिल स्लोप्स। दे आर नॉट suitable for top zone or bottom zone, or neither their performance is good along the stream banks. Similarly, certain species are suitable for bottom zone because in bottom zone the depth of soil is good, moisture regime is also good, और तो वहां पर condition are entirely different from top zone. तो सभी जोन की डिफरेंट स्पीसीज होती हैं। सिमिलरली जो स्ट्रीम जोन है उसकी स्पीसीज डिफरेंट होंगी। तो हर जोन के अनुसार कौन सी स्पीसीज को हमें कहां प्लांट करना है। अदरवाइज क्या करेगा आदमी, एट रैंडम मैंगो को वो टॉप में लगा जाएगा, टॉप की स्पीसीज को मैंगो के जोन में बॉटम में लगा देगा। तो हमें करेक्ट स्पीसीज शुड बी प्लेस्ड एट ए करेक्ट प्लेस, ये हमारा होना चाहिए। तो ये कैसे होगा, तो इसको ये तभी होगा व्हेन सम थिंग इज प्रेजेंट ऑन ए पेपर। Okay, this is a 100 meter high hill. इसका जो टॉप जोन है where soil depth is very poor and rocky area is more, so these species are suitable for rocky zone also. तो बस वो रॉक के उस पोर्शन में ले जाएगा। बॉटम में आएगा महुआ is suitable for bottom zone, mango is suitable for bottom zone, पोंगे में पेन्नेटा करंज is also good for bottom zone, तो वो फिर बॉटम में लाएगा उस स्पीसीज को। तो करेक्ट प्लेसमेंट जो अभी हिमानी ने बताया, दे आर 4 basic rules of ecological restoration: correct species, correct zonation, correct timing, and correct method. So the second requirement is correct zonation. So correct zonation तब ही आएगा जब हमारे पास एक लेयर होगी. तो हम क्या करते हैं, इन डिफरेंट लेयर्स को ट्रांसपेरेंसी पे रख लेते हैं. सपोज करिए मुझे अब सॉइल वर्क करना है, तो बेसिक मैप पर मैं जो सॉइल एंड मॉइस्चर कंजर्वेशन वाली लेयर है उसको उस पर सुपर इम्पोज कर दूंगा. और मुझे पता लग जाएगा कि इस बेसिक मैप में मुझे सीसीटी किस पोर्शन में बनानी है, बॉक्स ट्रेंच कहां बनानी है, मुझे गेवियन कहां किस स्ट्रीम पे बनाना है, मुझे नॉर्मल एक गली प्लग चेक डैम कहां बनाना है, मुझे एक इंस्पेक्शन पाथ कहां बनाना है, उसमें लोकेशन है. जस्ट उस मैप को देखने से. अब सपोज पिट डिगिंग करना है, तो अब मैं सारे मैप को हटा दूंगा. बेसिक मैप पर मैं सॉइल एंड वाटर कंजर्वेशन वाला लेयर को उस पर रखकर फील्ड में देखूंगा. ओके, पिट डिगिंग के लिए ये जोन है, और आपका बड़ा पिट के लिए ये जोन है, नोचिंग के लिए ये जोन है. मुझे जोन का पता लग जाएगा. इसी तरह मैं प्लांटिंग करूंगा, सारी लेयर को हटा दूंगा. ओनली आई विल सेलेक्ट द बेसिक लेयर and the species selection layer. So I will superimpose the species selection layer on my basic map. Superimpose करते मुझे पता लग जाएगा ओके कौन सा जोन बेम्बू के लिए सुटेबल है, which zone is suitable for जामुन, which zone is suitable for मैंगो. तो इससे क्या होगा, जो इलिटरेट लेबर है वो उस कोड्स को या कलर को देख के उसको पता लग जाएगा मुझे मैंगो कहाँ लगाना है. ये जो सारी लेयर, ये बड़ी पिक्टोरियल लेयर है. ये एक छोटी सी डिवाइस है, और जिसको हम मैनुअली बनाते हैं, फील्ड में बैठ के बनाते हैं. फील्ड के सॉइल को देखकर, स्लॉप को देखकर, स्ट्रीम्स को देखकर, रॉक के पैटर्न को देखकर. तो ये कहलाता है हमारा मैनुअल जीआईएस. आप इसे कंप्यूटर से बना सकते हैं, लेकिन मैनुअली ये थोड़ा इजी रहता है. इसमें कोई इसमें पैसा भी कोई इन्वॉल्व नहीं होता. बड़ा चीप सा ये रहता है और बड़ी अच्छी डिवाइस है.
हाँ जी, thank you, Anil ji. We got a very good idea of how this will work. Actually, I think Himani ji had also showed in the presentation वो एक multiple layer वाला map उन्होंने दिखाया था, purple layer and all these different layers that you're talking about. So अब तो बिल्कुल clear idea आ रहा है उससे कि उसको कैसे कर सकते हैं. So thank you so much for sharing that. एक और question था Sanish CS से. So Sanish was asking. Thank you for, Sanish says, thank you for showcasing the amazing work and its impact on rural livelihood. I have a question. Other than restoration, is it important to consider policy changes regarding the protection of commons from further degradation? What steps have been taken so far to address this matter?
Thank you, Sanish. So we are working with various NGO partners, academic institutions, and working with governments for restoration of the degraded common lands. So we are, and also we are supporting governments and other NGO partners with the tools and tech parts, and specifically to the government to implement their schemes, say for NREGA, can be implemented with a more scientific manner. So, and we are also building credible evidences around significance of commons. So the policy level recommendation can also be made. And we are working with the state government of Rajasthan specifically. We are the way forward, the step ahead that with the government of Rajasthan, government of Karnataka, government of Odisha, and government of Chhattisgarh to make the policy around the around the common land restoration.
Okay. Thanks, Himani. Sanish, does that answer your question? Do you want to ask any clarifying questions on this? You can unmute yourself and ask directly also. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Anish. The next question was from Prabhakar, and Prabhakar says, "Hello, thank you for an excellent presentation. Extremely encouraging to see very positive impact of interventions implemented in the project area. Congratulations and thank you. Did you follow watershed development approach? Did you implement any physical structures, measures for soil and water conservation?
Sorry, who had asked? Okay.
Prabhakar.
Prabhakar. So thank you, Prabhakar, for the question. Yes, we do follow the watershed-based approach, but basically, as we use the landscape-based approach, where we take all the kind of land, the land uses into consideration. And yes, we prepare the soil and water harvesting structures. Sometime when you please come to visit our field location to see all this. Thank you.
Thanks, Himani. Prabhakar, do you want to have any follow-up questions, or is this clear? Okay, I'll just go to the next question, which is from Ankila. Ankila says, thank you for this very impressive presentation. I was wondering, though, if degradation of these commons is due to overexploitation of resources by natural resource-dependent communities. I assume, I could be wrong, is also written there. How do you elevate those pressures to enable regeneration? Or what are alternative sources of those resources for dependent communities? So how do you get that balance, and how does it work from that perspective?
Thank you, Ankila. I think Dr. Sharma would be in better position to answer these, but I would start and Dr. Sharma can pitch in between. So as you asked, how do you elevate this pressure? As per my understanding, the forests are there where the village communities are there. If we see on the maps, we would see the forest or the good vegetative cover where the village communities are if the village communities are residing around the forest or the particular area. I believe and I've seen over maps that the area is far better than the area which is in isolation or no one is using those. I am not convinced that over exploitation of the resources by the dependent communities, but yes, sometimes it happens, and when this happens, we sit with the village communities and to understand. As I mentioned, we provide platform where various kind of academic institutions, village communities, government agencies can sit together and understand the issues and search the appropriate solution of their problems by sitting there. And after discussing with the village communities, we we help them to craft various kind of rules and regulations which they should or they can evolve around the restoration or restoration of their forest, or restoration of their grazing land, or restoration of their commons. So yes, so this is how we work with the village communities. And as you also asked, what are the alternate sources of or the resources for the dependent communities? So as of now, when we visit to the villages or when we interact with the communities where we are working in, so the communities, because they are the custodians and they are the one who are using the forest from the longer period of times and using some kind of customary rules, regulations, and practices they follow to sustainable use of these resources. So we build on these resources. So we build on those principles, and we revive the systems which was there earlier with the village communities, and try to help them to craft the rules to manage their common lands. I'm not sure if I responded to all of your questions.
No, thanks. I think you did. If I understand you correctly, there's more degradation where these commons are being treated more as an open access resource rather than being managed as commons. Would that be correct? To a correct understanding of what you've said?
Yeah, yes. So yes.
Okay, thanks very much.
Himani ji,
Sir.
Himani madam,
Sir.
and many other factors are also responsible for degradation, like invasive weeds. Nowadays, a great number of invasive weeds are there in grasslands and forest area, like Prosperous juliflora, Lantana camara, Lantana whitiana, Hyptis violens, and Acacia tora, Acacia occidentalis, Acacia uniflora. So many invasive weeds are there, and these invasive weeds, they are all strong light demand. And in our grassland area, our grasses are also strong light demand. So their dependency on light is same. So there is a heavy competition between grasses and these weeds. So due to presence of these weeds, the production of grass is continuously decreasing. And in forest area, these invasive weeds, they are taking heavy toll from new recruitments. जो नए पौधे उगे, छोटे पौधे. So because the height of baby plants is very less, and the length of these invasive weeds is relatively high, तो वो competition में रह जाते हैं. तो इससे भी हमारी biodiversity बड़ी उनसे पीछे रह रही है, डैमेज हो रहा है. इसके अलावा एक और चीज है, the decreasing number of pollinators. Nowadays, आप देखिए फार्मर्स को देखिए कितना पेस्टिसाइड और इंसेक्टिसाइड यूज कर रहे हैं वो. तो ड्यू टू हैवी यूज ऑफ पेस्टिसाइड एंड इंसेक्टिसाइड, द हैवी कैजुअलिटी ऑफ बटरफ्लाइज एंड हनी बीज इज देयर. तो उनकी वजह से जितना भी क्रॉस पॉलिनेटेड फॉरेस्ट स्पीसीज हैं या और दूसरे स्पीसीज हैं, उनके लिए द नंबर ऑफ बीज इज रिलेटिवली लो, अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ बीज इज लो. तो जब अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ बीज जब कम रहेगा तो सीड प्रोडक्शन इज ग्रेजुअली डिक्रीजिंग इन फॉरेस्ट एरिया. इफ नंबर ऑफ सीड प्रोडक्शन इज स्लाइटली लो और प्रोपेगल्स आर नॉट अवेलेबल इन सफिशिएंट नंबर, तो नया पौधा कैसे उगेगा? तो इससे भी हमारा जो एक रेस्टोरेशन है, नेचुरल रेस्टोरेशन, उसमें प्रॉब्लम हो रही है. दूसरा एक और चीज है, ग्रासलैंड में लोग क्या करते हैं, रूरल एरियाज वो ग्रेजिंग करा देते हैं बिफोर फ्लावरिंग. तो जब घास में फूल ही नहीं आ रहा, फ्लावरिंग नहीं आ रहा है, ग्रेजिंग इज गोइंग ऑन, तो क्या होगा, द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ सीड्स विल बी लेस. तो नया जो जनरेशन है, नया रीजनरेशन है ग्रास का, वो भी कम होगा. तो ये भी ऐसी चीजें हैं जिसकी वजह से हमारा जो डिग्रेडेशन है वो होता जा रहा है. एनक्रोचमेंट है, अलॉटमेंट है, दीज ऑल लीगल प्रॉब्लम्स. तो इस सब से भी ये सारा हो रहा है. एंड as per land classification of India, we have 8 categories of land. So 1 to 4 category of land, they are suitable for agriculture. And category number 5 to 8, these are all slopy, hilly, undulating lands. They are suitable for forest only. लेकिन अभी क्या हो रहा है, लोग, हमारी जो पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज हो रही है, तो हमको ज्यादा लैंड चाहिए एग्रीकल्चर के लिए. तो 1 से 4 के बाद 5 नंबर की लैंड पर भी एग्रीकल्चर हो रही है, 6 नंबर की पे भी हो रही है, इवन 7 तक भी जा रहे हैं. सो इन द लैंड विच आर सुटेबल फॉर ओनली फॉर फॉरेस्ट्री, नाउ दे आर बीइंग यूज्ड फॉर एग्रीकल्चर. सो दिस ओवर एक्सपांशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर इज आल्सो क्रिएटिंग प्रॉब्लम फॉर आवर नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज लाइक ग्रास लैंड एंड फॉरेस्ट एरिया. तो ये भी एक इश्यू है जिसकी वजह से धीरे धीरे हमारे ये जो कम्युनिटी जो रिसोर्सेज हैं, इनमें डिग्रेडेशन होने लगा है.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Anilji. And I think there's just one last question and then we'll close it. I think it's already 5:18. The last question is, so there's this one from Vivek, which I missed earlier asking, is in FES or your experience, do communities manage to get secure tenure or land-based rights formally, or is it informal? And a follow-up to that is, do legal systems in the states support multiple types of land-based rights that facilitate your objectives? And are those laws evolving in the right direction or in a desired direction?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So regarding the informal, so secure land right. In case of Rajasthan, say for grazing land policy is there. It's in the draft stage, but the Panchayati Raj Act 1974, and by that the grazing land should be, can be entered into the Panchayat Asset Register, and if it is entered into the Panchayat Asset Register, the land is a bit secure and it cannot be further converted into any other kind of land. So similar case is in Karnataka, the Gomala land can also be entered into the Panchayat Assets Register. In case of AP, there's the provision of prohibitory order book where the revenue based land can be entered or based on the use by the villages. It can be entered into the POB, and if it is entered into the POB, it cannot be converted. There are mechanisms to secure the lands, the land for the formal recognition for the village communities. It's there in the states. In case of forest land, as you are aware that the forest right, the CFR, after this 2006 FRA Act ke baad, and then the CFR and IFR rules are there, and the community forest land can also be entered into the CFR land, and if it is entered into the CFR as a CFR land or CFR land, it is more secure. So there are mechanisms are there.
Thank you so much, Himani, for answering that. And it's been really wonderful. I think I think we can close this talk today for now, and we'll definitely think about how we can have more discussions around FES's work and on the tools, techniques, and other aspects that you would like to share with the rest of the community and help in this restoration movement. So thank you so much for taking the time out for giving this talk, sharing FES's work, sharing your experience. And I think on behalf of everyone, I could definitely say that it's just been very inspiring to see this kind of work, and very encouraging for everyone here as well to hear about your methods and the way you went about, the way FES has gone about with their work. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for staying on the call and for asking all your questions. And if there are more questions, we can always, I hope we can always email Himani and ask for clarifications or support on that. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.